babies. Sebastian was born, he's 22 now, and he was born in Northampton, weighing £3.14. And Daniela was born in 2003, and she weighed £6, so she was quite a good weight, but she was 5 weeks early. And that's when we were in Guernsey, and I was actually at the hospital being looked after by all the neonatal nurses and paediatricians, and that's when I decided, I think we're going to raise some money for a incubator, a one-off thing we're going to do. And 20 years later, I'm still fundraising, but I love it. It's part of my life now. And we've got 3 flats now in Southampton. We've just taken on our 3rd one about a week ago, actually. So it's quite exciting. And I was really interested to meet Dr. Rao because I was listening to him actually talking on a radio show, and it was really great to hear about what you do, and it was nice to meet you.
I finished medical school in about 1997, I think. And then for 3 or 4 years, I was just about doing any job that came my way. I didn't know which specialty I wanted to do. Some of my friends knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they went in straight as a surgeon or physician, but I wanted to take my own time. And then at one point I wanted to come to UK, but I didn't have the necessary cash on hand because it's quite expensive to travel from India to UK and to do some exams here. So I took a year off in Maldives. Right. Yeah, I was working as a medical officer for the whole island, which is a 7-star resort, mainly looking after travelers. But I was able to save up some money. And then from there, it started off. I came to UK. I did my exams and then joined pediatrics. That's how the initial career started. We've been working mostly around the south coast, Southampton, Winchester, Portsmouth, Brighton, and then London. That's where my whole training was. I did pediatrics, and then I moved into something called neonatal medicine, looking after preterm babies. And that's a 2 to 3 year specialized training to look after preterm babies. Just that, and we don't do anything else. So once you complete that training, you can call yourself a pediatrician and a neonatologist.
What was the attraction though for working with preterm babies and in neonatal care, the very smallest, most vulnerable patients? Why did you want to do that?
I think it probably started off in my medical school training. When we do medical school from the 3rd year onwards, it's a total of 5 years training to become a doctor. The first 2 years, you're mainly on the college side, attending classes and lectures. Whereas from the 3rd year, we call it the clinicals. They ask you to go to the hospital, meet patients, children, babies, grown-ups, everybody, get in touch with how clinical medicine happens. And I think my pediatric posting impressed me the most, probably. And that's when I thought maybe I should do pediatrics. Sometimes it depends on your personality as well.
Yeah.
If and also your interests. If you want to do pediatrics and your personality matches, it's easy to do it. And maybe I'm just guessing, maybe that's why I went into pediatrics. When I came to UK, I straight away went into pediatrics without thinking about anything else. And luckily I found my job quite soon after finishing my exams. So that's where the initial interest was.
Okay. So you've been in Guernsey then for 3 years, working then again with the youngest and most vulnerable patients in Guernsey. And Joe, obviously you've got this experience as a parent then when your baby is requiring that neonatal care, preterm babies need that care.
You do. And
what's it like?
Well, it's pretty scary because you never know you're ever going to have a premature baby. And it's a shock to me when Sebastian came along. I thought I was going to have a normal birth, but no, I didn't even have a bag ready, nothing. And then you just get put into this world when you meet the doctors and the nurses and you just bond a relationship. And honestly, the relationship, it never ever leaves you. I mean, I still remember who looked after Seb, and I don't remember yesterday, but I do remember that. And just what they do just to keep the little one alive. I mean, Seb was pretty frightening. He was £3.14, but he had the cord around his neck, so he wasn't very well at the start. And every minute, every millimetre of milk he took, it was just a very slow process, and it's just amazing what they do. And to me, that's what's kept me fundraising for the doctors and the nurses, because it's just very, very scary at the time.
I mean, you think of said Priaulx and you think, wow, he's a superstar, isn't he, in Guernsey? I mean, and I've seen him recently. He's fit and healthy and seems to be doing remarkably well in life.
22 now, yeah.
Yeah, but watching you when you talk about his birth and those early days, you can see actually it must have been traumatic.
Oh, it really was. And because I lived in Northampton at the time, I've mentioned this many times, we had to leave him in the ward and then drive 20 miles home and leave him there for about a month. And that's the hardest part that I felt. And it rips me to bits now thinking about it. So luckily, because we've got these accommodations near Southampton that we've actually been able to acquire for the charity, for me, it helps the mums. They can see the ward from their bedroom, which is lovely. We were only there on Friday looking at the properties, and you can just see the whole hospital around you, so you feel like you're having a big cuddle all the time, because leaving a baby is really hard at the start.
Joe mentioned there bonding with the medical team around the baby, and do you see that as well from the paediatrician side of things? Do you feel that bond with the tiny little patients but with their parents and I guess wider family and support network as well?
Pediatrics as a whole comes with looking after the whole family. Okay. It's not about looking after just the child, because yes, the child's going to be fine in a couple of days, and let's say a child with a respiratory infection comes in, but it's never that. The sibling is there and the parents are there. It's about reassuring the whole family that things are going in the right way. And talking about babies in the neonatal unit, sometimes they are there for 3 months. Right. I used to work in King's, and some of these babies are so preterm and so unwell, they have stayed on the ward with us for a year and a half. A year and a half. Yeah. And you see them grow while they are there on the ward, and you see these parents and their relatives, grandparents, nearly every day, and you can't hide the fact that you kind of get into a relationship with them. Yeah. So they understand what you say better, and you understand them better. Sometimes you don't even need to ask them. You just know what they're feeling just looking at their faces. So I think the communication and the relationship with parents and the whole family as a whole, we take it really seriously in pediatrics, and we want to forge those relationships further to help them. It's not just about illness, it's about that relationship, because they have to trust us, you see. The parents, they trust us with the most important thing in their life, and they have to leave the child with us, and they go home, and in the back of their mind they're thinking, is the child safe? So the doctors and the nurses need to be trustworthy, so the parents can have a decent night's sleep at home.
So that's the benefit, isn't it, then, of Aggie's Borough and the other properties? You said you're within the hospital, and from a medical point of view, that must be as important then as the medical treatment. It's that just feeling part of it. Yes, the emotional.
The emotional contact that you have with the parents. And when the parents are happy because of all this accommodation and all the facilities that they get, they have a clear mind, and they understand what the doctors and nurses are trying to say, while not worried about accommodation, not worried about how they are going to spend the night tonight. Yeah. So I think you take one important thing off their mind.
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that so is such a great thing, really.
It's absolutely, can see the main hospital, but you're actually with the children's hospital side or whatever it is that way. But yeah, it's right there in the middle.
When you started your journey with the Priaulx Premature Baby Foundation, you said 20 years ago, so that was when Daniela was born,
baby. Yeah, she'll be 20 this year.
Did you ever think that, you'd be sitting here,
Dr. Rao.
with Dr. Rao and with your other kind of supporters, staff, volunteers, with kind of 3 properties and all the other work that you do? I mean, did you ever think that it would come this far?
Never really thought that. We just wanted to do one event because Andy was doing so well with his racing. I think he'd won one of his world titles, and we said, well, look, let's give it a little bit back. So we did one event with a company, and we raised about 45,000 to buy an incubator. Yeah. But then I thought, we could do something else, and then it just went on from there, really. And I'm lucky to have good staff like Sammy. I've got my daughter working with me now, and we've got a lovely board of trustees. It's got a little bit more stricter with charities, which I understand fully, but there's a lot to do with compliance now. I feel sorry for some charities because they're going to get lost in all the paperwork and everything. But no, we've got through and we're there. We actually had the Queen's Award about 5 years ago, so that was good. No, I never thought I'd be still here in 20 years, but hopefully I'm going to be another 20 years.
Daniela then working for the charity, that must be very unusual actually for a charity to have been established around her baby, the child at the centre of the cause, and then for her to be working for the charity. I mean, that's wonderful.
Well, she's volunteering, but I'd like her to take my footsteps, really. I mean, I can't make her if she doesn't want to, but I can see she's got a little bit of a passion for it. So, yeah, it was named after her, really, and there's little Danny bears we've got. And like I said, we did it 20 years ago this year. November the 17th will be our anniversary, so I'm hoping she'll take on, but we don't know. I mean, things change. She's 19 now, but she seems to love it. She made you a cup of tea, didn't she? I've got to do little jobs.
That's why I didn't want to waste it. I brought it.
Yeah. And Dr. Rao, then, I mean, how often do you actually see that then when you treat these, tiny little patients? Mm-hmm. Is there a continuation of the story? Do you ever see them again many years later? I know you wouldn't have treated Daniela when she was a baby, but do you hear how your patients get on as they're growing up?
We do. Sometimes, sadly, because they tend to have continuing illness, they continue to see us. But sometimes, because the parents are so nice, they keep us updated. Right. Once in a while, they send a card to the neonatal unit saying, this is Danny, she was born then and there, and she's doing this now, and we are really happy, thank you. And they send a box of, whatever it is, chocolate or something for the neonatal unit. And then you kind of get reminded, okay, Joe Priaulx, and you kind of connect. Sometimes it's been 10 years and you forget, but still it's nice to hear back.
It's not just about buying incubators and flats, is it? It's all the support across all different levels.
I've got a lovely relationship with Emma and a few nurses in the ward, and they often call us and say, Joe, we need cardigans today. In fact, I've got to put cardigans together, or we need baby boxes. And then they'll say to us, we need this in the baby box. So we do a lot of stuff like that side of things. We enjoy that bit of it. So they just give us a call and we go up for a meeting. We just love working with them. I think you have to have a good relationship with them to know what they need.
Nothing is too small, isn't it?
Nothing's too small, no. But there's some. What else do we give? We've been giving breast pumps lately because a lot of things have changed. Like 20 years ago when I set up a baby box, there's different things in it. So things have grown on, and we do put lovely mum's gifts in there. Dad sometimes wants a gift. God, mustn't forget about the dads. They need a lot of stuff too. That's another story. But it's very important for everyone to feel that they've all been looked after, because men can get forgotten too in the whole situation.
What's the relationship like then? So obviously Joe and the charity team will know the neonatal nurses very well. From the kind of surgeon point of view, how close is your working relationship with the staff on the ward? Are you very integrated?
We have to, because it's such a small circle of people there. We have 5 consultants in our team, and we take turns to be on the neonatal unit. So let's say this week, the whole week I am there, and then next week somebody else takes over. So we have to work so closely with not just the neonatal nurses, but also the pediatric nurses and the midwifery staff. They are so important for us because that's where we get all the information from about the pregnant mums, about what the risk factors are, and how sick they are expecting the baby to be born. We get all this information from the obstetricians and from the midwifery staff.
Medical technology and experiences have changed in 20 years. So hopefully there's good prognosis when a baby comes onto the ward.
Absolutely. The preterm babies, things are improving every day actually. And the numbers were 20 years ago, I would say, a bit difficult to read. But now, the survival, even if you talk about 24, 26 weekers, is definitely around 90-95%.
Wow. Amazing.
So survival is not a problem anymore, I think. It's more about how we look after them and how they carry on the journey from being a newborn baby to a 3-month-old, 6-month-old. We monitor their progress till they're at least 2 years old. And it's not just about whether they can roll over, whether they can walk. It's about their intelligence as well, how they learn in future. So they need a prolonged follow-up by the pediatric team. So that's why I mentioned in the past, you get to know them so well. For 2-3 years time, they keep coming back to your clinic, and you understand the family really well. So it becomes more like a friendship and a relationship rather than a doctor and a patient.
That's actually something I'd like to look into within the charity, is how they are when they've grown up. I see a lot of differences. I talk to lots of mums that have had prem babies, and everyone is different. And even like in Seb's little life, he struggled at school so much with dyslexia, and I don't think that's anything to do with being prem, but there is definitely something I'd like to look into more, is how they are and how they grow. In fact, this year, for our 20th year, we're going to hopefully try and get everybody who's been in the charity for 20 years, which would be great to get together and see how they've grown.
As you were both talking, actually, one thing that came to mind, so you mentioned that the midwifery teams and the nursing teams and the surgeon teams obviously all work very closely together. So you're aware when there is a premature baby that's going to need help, almost before they arrive, I guess, sometimes.
Mostly.
But how do people know about the support of the Priaulx Premature Baby Foundation? Do they have to approach the charity and say, can we have help? Or is the charity there to say, we're here to help you, what do you need?
Well, this is a good question, actually, because usually it's the nurses that will put us, because we don't know who has a baby. We're not allowed to know, it's confidential. So we either get maybe a message on Facebook saying, oh, so-and-so needs the flat, is it available? Or we'll get Emma or someone like Caroline give us a call and say, Joe's a baby, is available. So no, the only way we get to hear is through Messenger on Facebook or the nurses at the ward. But we do got our leaflets out, and we've got things on the walls and baby boxes, and I think being a small island, it gets about. But that's the only way, because otherwise we don't know who's a prem. In fact, I love to know, but not. I sometimes say, any babies?
What actually counts as a premature baby? Because you mentioned before 24 weeks, and that is, to me, I was going to say, that sounds incredibly early.
The normal time is 40 weeks. If they are born less than 24 weeks, we call it non-viable, which means some of them may not survive.
Yeah.
There are rare instances that, yes, we carry on with the resuscitation, because sometimes the dates can be wrong. Who knows exactly if the baby is 24 or 23? Who knows that? So if they are good size, and if in that split second the doctor thinks maybe this baby is more than 24 or 25, then we start resuscitating. You don't want to just leave it. But if they are very, very small and less than 300-400 grams, then it can be very difficult to resuscitate them, and there can be lots of complications when you resuscitate these babies. It's not good for their brain, it's not good for their body. So sometimes we just explain to the parents saying, look, this is what we think it is, and it may be better not to actually go ahead with the resuscitation. So yeah, it can be quite a difficult situation and a scenario, and you have to think on your feet. You don't have much time, so it can be a bit stressful, because you don't want to be that person to decide that you don't want to resuscitate a baby right in front of your eyes. But at the same time, the experience that you've had for 20 years needs to click, and then you have to make that decision, which can be quite difficult. But I've had some good experience doing that in a proper way, and I've never had problems with parents coming back and saying you did the wrong thing. So I think it comes with experience. Junior doctors probably will not take that responsibility because they are worried. So we because we've had the experience, are comfortable doing that. But yes, the answer to your question is normal is 40 weeks. Anything more than 37, we still call them term babies.
Okay.
But less than 37, we call them preterm. 32 to 37 are very easy to manage generally, because they are reasonably, they're very close to term. But between 28 and 32 is a little bit tricky, but less than 28 is very tricky. Some of these babies are just the size of our palms, a proper big size palm can be the size of a baby. So we've had recently a 26-weeker who we resuscitated really well, and the baby was taken to Portsmouth, but we stabilized the baby really well, and then the air ambulance team came. So yeah, I think we're doing really good work here, and it's very nice to actually be associated with the PPBL so that we get to know each other, the medical side and the charity side of things.